From as far back as I can remember, celebrating Easter, arguably the most important time on the Christian calendar, was a must. At every school I've attended, regardless of whether it was a religious one or not, this was just something that we all did. Why? Because this is a Christian country, and that is to be respected. Easter is one of the main holidays or feasts of Christianity. Now, it marks the resurrection of Jesus 3 days after his death by crucifixion, and for many Christian churches, Easter is the joyful end of the Lenten season of fasting and penitence. So when I hear that a primary school has scrapped its Easter celebrations and service in order to respect diverse religious groups, I have to ask myself, where is the respect for Christianity? Norwood Primary School in Eastleigh informed parents via letter that the Easter bonnet parade and Easter service was cancelled this year so that it could respect diversity, even though the school's website states that throughout the year, important days will be celebrated, which include Eid, Diwali, Christmas and Easter. Why are they doing this? Children love celebrating Easter, and just because you are not of that faith, why shouldn't you celebrate it alongside those that are? I loved the Easter celebrations at my school. We made a big deal of it, and irrespective of the religious connotations, it was an exciting time where we all got together. Parents in previous years at Norwood School apparently had the option not to let their children participate if they were concerned, but why cancel it altogether? There is no other country that would set aside its own religious culture for the sake of others to fit into a woke agenda of diversity, which you could argue is the very opposite of. It's madness. The head teacher claimed that by not holding specific celebrations, we aim to create a more inclusive atmosphere that honours and respects the beliefs of all our children and their families. She went on to say, we are exploring alternative ways to celebrate the season in future years that will be inclusive of all children and reflect the rich cultural diversity of our country. But the school also plans to celebrate Refugee Week. Come again? You're exploring ways to make Easter inclusive by cancelling the celebrations, thereby excluding it from your calendar. But Refugee Week is fine. For goodness sake, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a Christian country, and it shouldn't be down to a head teacher to deny the children the opportunity to celebrate the Christian values that this country is based on. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves, giving power to individuals who may well have their own hidden agenda to dictate what our children are taught? It really is simple. We are an incredibly tolerant country of all other religions, but our own culture trumps all others. No wonder we're in the mess that we're in. Well, to react to my niggle, I'm joined by Diversity and Inclusion Facilitator, Katie John Went. Katie, thank you very much for joining me. Katie, is this diversity on steroids? Seriously, why cancel such an inclusive activity? If people don't want to do it, they could just say they don't want to do it like they have in previous years, instead of actually scrapping it altogether.
I think it does give diversity a bad name. I think the reason for doing it is more than merits the niggle. When I was at school, I was a Christian, but then I actually hated all the religious celebrations. I was attached to a school that was next door to a cathedral. We had to go in and be paraded through the cathedral and do all of that. And I actually hated that aspect to it. And actually that encouraged me on to kind of more diverse versions. There's diversity for you. More diverse versions of Christianity, looking for something a little bit more interesting than the very dull religious services that did exist. I'm now agnostic, and I actually do wish schools were agnostic. And what I mean by that is that they should be focusing on teaching, not preaching of any kind. You can argue that they could include all religions by celebrating every religion, but then someone's still going to be missed out. What I do remember in my school days was the kids who were, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses or Jewish, who were then actually, they were the ones who did get pulled out of some of these events, because I'm that old, so we didn't have much of the other faiths around back then. But they were pulled out, and the kids did feel like they were being singled out because they were the ones missing out. They probably didn't care or didn't understand themselves, but their parents were making a point through their kids. And so then they felt excluded from groups in school. So there is an act of inclusion, you might say here, but it's not about the faith per se. It's about the parents', rights and roles within that.
But what about the notion that this is a Christian country? So we should continue with our Christian traditions. You don't have to be part of it, but you can include other traditions. When my school was multi-religious, because I studied theology and philosophy, I studied about all the other religions, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing, but this is a Christian country. So Christianity.
Yes, I mean, yeah, we've been a Christian country. Are we a Christian country now? Were we a Christian country? Christianity was an invader's religion that came to us. Well, the Christianity that we have now, actually, the majority aren't Christian anymore. The majority, don't believe anything, probably. But it's a minority religion, but it is the largest minority religion. I also studied theology, and what I will know from that is the fact that, in fact, the celebrations of Easter and the celebrations of Christmas are very little to do, in fact, with Christianity in many respects. And if Jesus were to walk the earth right now and come back and see the very celebrations we have of Easter and Christmas, which are primarily, about commerce and gifts and chocolate and, and presents and all this kind of stuff, or the bonnets, where's the Easter bonnets in the Easter story? I don't remember that in the four Gospels. So I don't think it's a thing about, is this a Christian act to do? Is it something that makes children, is it something that's enjoyable for children, makes all children feel welcome at it? Then are there aspects of all of the festivals, from Eid to Passover to whatever, are there aspects of that can be included for all children of a young age without it being an indoctrination of any? But I don't think we're particularly upholding a Christian country when I don't think we particularly are anymore.
Well, that's probably the reason, isn't it? Because all these celebrations that we would normally do as part of Christianity, we have scrubbed them out. We're not allowing the children to get the appreciation of Christianity. Now, I'm not particularly religious anymore either. I'm a bit like you. I just sort of got put off by it because, I just saw the nuns driving nice cars and the churches with gold leaf and thought, well, what about the poor outside? So look, I'm not necessarily religious, but my point is this, that we are, and we were, a Christian country. All we're doing is just dissolving our own Christianity and putting in other things in its place, when ultimately there is no harm with the children celebrating that and Eid and all the other celebrations. It's all, that is actually education. Education is learning about other faiths, whether you are of faith or not, and there are lessons in all of the faiths. There's even religious education, which I think they should have left in the curriculum, that they took it out because they didn't want, people to study religion. I don't know why. I think it's good to know religious beliefs, the 10 Commandments. These are neutral commandments that could apply to any philosophy and theology, and I think that's a mistake. And now we are surprised that we are losing our own traditional Christian values, whether they were important to this country or not, or became them. The fact is we're losing them, and I think it's because of acts like this.
I think at the very least, though, Christianity should be treated equally alongside others.
Absolutely.
There should be no kind of pecking order, shall we say. And if there was a pecking order, Christianity should get a few more points in that pecking order because of our heritage. And you're right as well. I think, though, that there are beneficial aspects, like the teaching of how we treat others, how we love our neighbour as ourselves, which is as much a Jewish as a Christian thing, and it runs through Islam as well. Those things should be the good parts of religion in that respect. Should and could be kind of encouraged. I don't believe, though, as I say, in teaching, I think maybe we should bring it back, cancel religious education, but bring back religious awareness. I don't mean that in a kind of diversity sense of awareness. I just mean that in a sense of we should be aware of our history, aware of our heritage, aware of our neighbours' beliefs and what they are, and what is the best way to treat each other as human beings.
Exactly.
And that's neither education, indoctrination, nor worship. I think stepping away from the kind of the religiosity of it is a good thing for everyone.
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with that level, because what the religious teachings in the Bible are, they're like morality plays. They are teaching people right and wrong. And I do actually remember when they said they were taking religious education out of the curriculum, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, how will people know the difference between right and wrong? Because that was one of the things that, and this is my young child brain many years ago when they took it out. I studied it and I enjoyed it and the concepts within it, but that doesn't necessarily make me religious at the end of it. And I think taking it out of the curriculum and also not allowing children to enjoy all the different festivals for all the different religions and singling out Christianity as one that they don't participate in, I think is wrong. Katie John Went, a pleasure. Thank you very much for talking to me.